Good morning. I've got a lot on my mind. Some of it's packing for Milan and Israel. I'm really looking forward to that trip. I know it's going to be emotional for me because my heart has always been in Israel. Always. I was brought up with Israel on my mind and at the dinner table. So I want to know what's happening. And so much is going on. I'd be happy when all the hostages come home and when we can finally look at a peace deal and not war on two fronts or any fronts or more people dying and suffering. That's one thing on my mind. The other is our democracy. This is an open letter to Liz Cheney, to Darren Walker, the head of the Ford Foundation, to Raj Shah, the CEO of the Rockefeller Foundation. You think you want to make a big bet on society. Before you make those big bets, you better look at Donald Trump and his Russian connections. I gotta retitle my book because it really is all about Trump and his Russian connections. And I have the copyright to the Financial Times article on those Russian connections. Kind of amazes me that since 2016, when Trump's best buddy, Putin, helped get him into office, there hasn't been one person, one prosecutor looking at Trump and saying he stole emails, he infiltrated the DNC, he infiltrated the RNC. How come that's not a prosecuting offense? Sure, he didn't physically go into their offices like Nixon did, but then again, Nixon didn't have computers in those days. Now we got computers. With computers, it seems to me that what I write on my computer should be mine, my data, my copyright, my privacy. Somebody invades it knowingly. Isn't that a prosecutable offense? How do we have privacy anywhere? Seems to me, not only is Congress negligent on giving aid to the Ukraine, to Israel, to Taiwan, they're also negligent on coming up with good privacy rules for all of us, because I don't like being the product. I may want to consume, but I don't need people to be looking at my data and telling me what I should be saying based upon prior habits. And that's what's happening with ChatGPT and every other generative AI that's out there. Plus the fact they're all consuming more energy, more carbon into the atmosphere. If we don't support a democracy, how in the world are we going to get to big bets on society? How are we going to get to climate change? We just lost millions of acres in Texas. Now tornadoes are ravaging the Midwest. COVID, though folks are denying the efficacy of the vaccine and they're not using Paxlovid, the medication, to mitigate the effects of COVID, about 18% of our public has long COVID. You're going to tell me everyone's employed? They're not employed to the fullest. How can they be when they're suffering with neurological problems and they're fatigued? They're not employed, just like a lot of our 50-year-olds are living at home. They're not employed. A lot of the millennials are not employed. So, who's employed? Who's making up the middle class when I'm reading that parents are subsidizing kids about $1,000 a month and more if they can afford it? Who's working? You got the CEOs at the top making hundreds of millions of dollars, most of it probably untaxed, and you got the lower classes. Middle class can't afford to live. Middle class can't buy goods and services. I was at an IMAX the other day. 2 adults and 1 senior, $81. Yes, that's true. We did pay a service fee. But the service fee doubled from $1.50 to $3 a ticket. When you talk about hidden fees, that's a hidden fee. $9 for 3 tickets? That's outrageous. Just to conveniently get your tickets on the internet. So, what's going on in America and all over the world? I'm reading 4.3 billion people globally are suffering with neurological disease. Neurological diseases because of our pollution, because of the melting permafrost, because of our diets. And now, rather than changing our diets, what are we doing? We're giving everyone a pill. A pill so they overcome the obesity that they have and the diabetes that they get due to the processed foods they're eating. I guess it's easier to give people a pill than it is to change our diet. Because if you changed our diet, you'd have to change our climate. And nobody's going to do that. No, they'd rather play chicken with Mother Earth and see who wins. Who's going to survive the longest with floods, fires, permafrost melting, methane gas in the water, etc., etc., etc. And at the very base of all these tragedies that are solvable because we've got the solutions. I just read that you can use sound that sounds like the coral reef, a thriving coral reef, and it attracts the ecosystems to produce a thriving coral reef. That's a pretty simple answer to repopulating coral reefs. It's also pretty simple to maintain fossil fuels emissions. Cap them. Cap methane. Cap carbon. It's simple. But if you don't have a democracy, what are you going to do? We're going to become part of the axis of evil, and we're going to be producing more armaments to destroy more people, to destroy more of the world, instead of promoting life and health and being proactive. This is a tragedy. Liz Cheney, Darren Walker, Raj Shah, wake up. The most important thing we can do is promote democracy here and abroad, and make sure that the autocrats do not thrive and survive, because we gotta move forward with healthy, intelligent populations. Thank you, and have a lovely day.